The day Ethan Reynolds' life shifted forever began like any other. He had already endured heartbreak once in his past. Years ago, he was a devoted young husband, certain that his marriage to Melissa would last a lifetime. That belief was shattered the night she met a soldier passing through town. Without warning, she abandoned Ethan and their 3-year-old son, Caleb. One evening, she was smiling at his jokes while stirring a pot on the stove, and the next morning, she was gone, leaving nothing but a short note in silence behind. The betrayal scarred Ethan so deeply that he swore never to let his heart become vulnerable again. He buried himself in raising Caleb and running the small children's learning center he'd started after leaving the corporate grind. Love became something he locked away, convinced it had no place in his life anymore. But fate had its own ideas. One chilly spring afternoon, while treating Caleb, now 12, to ice cream, Ethan noticed a young woman sitting alone on a park bench. Her shoulders slumped, her eyes red from tears. She seemed utterly defeated. After a brief hesitation, Ethan approached and asked gently if she was all right. That was the first time he met Claire Whitman. Claire, only 23, had finished college with degrees, recommendations, and ambition. Yet every company dismissed her with the same cold excuse: not enough experience. No matter how hard she had worked during her internships, she felt unseen, like she didn't exist. As she spoke about her most recent rejection, Ethan listened with unexpected patience and warmth. Caleb, meanwhile, had wandered off and returned with a sketch he'd made, a cheerful drawing of a girl with a bright smile. He handed it to Claire silently, and she held it as though it were a lifeline. For both Ethan and Claire, something shifted in that moment. Though she lacked the qualifications for a teaching role, Ethan offered Claire a small administrative job at a center. She accepted immediately. She was broke, new in town, and hanging on by a thread. More than income, she needed hope, and Ethan gave it to her. Over the months that followed, they grew close. Ethan found himself stopping by her desk with her favorite coffee or bringing her pastries in the morning. Claire, in turn, responded with admiration and warmth that went beyond gratitude. Eventually, Ethan asked her out to dinner. She agreed without hesitation. She had fallen for him the day he'd chosen kindness when others looked away. 6 months later, they were living together. A year later, Ethan proposed. Despite everything in his past, he felt certain. Claire had reawakened a part of him he thought had died long ago. Years went by. Caleb, now preparing for college, had grown to love Claire deeply. She never tried to take his mother's place, but became a steady, caring figure in his life. Meanwhile, the Learning Center flourished. With a second branch open, Claire took charge of its operations and found herself unexpectedly fulfilled in the work, despite once dreaming of a career in communications. But long hours at the center often kept her late into the evening, especially with the older students' creative writing classes. That was where she met Ryan Hull, a charismatic 26-year-old teacher. At first, Claire simply admired his talent and charm. But soon, admiration blurred into something dangerous. She despised herself for the thoughts that surfaced, but Ryan noticed her interest and fed into it with compliments, lingering touches, and sincere questions. One night, as they locked up the center, he kissed her, and she kissed him back. From then on, Claire lived a double life. The affair wasn't constant, but every encounter chipped away at her loyalty. At home, she grew restless, easily irritated with Ethan, who was buried in stress from business expansions. Compared to Ryan's energy, Ethan seemed weary and distant. Ethan noticed her growing coldness, but whenever he asked, she brushed it off. One afternoon, while waiting for a meeting, Ethan gave in to a sudden impulse to check the center security feeds. The classrooms were empty, but as he clicked through the cameras, he froze. There, in the back room, Claire and Ryan were entangled. His stomach dropped. Shaking, he hit record. Later, in the silence of his office, he buried his face in his hands, struggling to breathe. That night, he said nothing. He greeted Claire, let her kiss his cheek, but all he could see was the footage replaying in his mind. By morning, a plan had formed. He organized what Claire believed was a celebration for his new business venture, renting a banquet hall. Behind the scenes, he arranged for the staff to play a particular video at the perfect moment. When the evening came, Claire dressed beautifully, laughing and chatting as if nothing were wrong. Ethan gave a speech about love, trust, and truth, and then every screen lit up with a recording. Gasps filled the room. Claire went pale, then bolted out in tears. What followed was devastation. Their divorce turned bitter, with Claire swinging between sabotage, apologies, and desperate pleas. Ethan never wavered. Caleb, disgusted, cut all ties with her. Ryan, realizing the chaos he'd stepped into, disappeared in the city without a word, leaving Claire completely alone. In the end, she was left in a modest apartment, haunted by memories. She often thought back to the day in the park, when Ethan had first asked if she was all right. In that moment, she had gained everything: love, stability, a second chance. And through her own choices, she had lost it all. There was no path back.